And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the Intercontinental Hotel. What a guest we have on the show today. He calls the President of the United States his brother from another mother. He's got his new book, his second, and he's working on his third, by the way. It's called On Obama's Journey, My Odyssey of Self-Discovery Across Three Cultures. And he actually means three continents, because he was born in Kenya, got lost in America, found himself in China. Great book. It's going to be available. It's launching tomorrow officially on Thursday, and then after that, Yaya Center. Go see Chand at Bookstop. He'll hook you up. It's going to be on Amazon, Kindle, you name it. And
it's already on.
It's already on Amazon.
It's already on.
Good.
Yeah.
Unlike mine. But that's another story. Tweets are coming in thick and fast, Mark. You should listen to these tweets. Wow. I love it. Nkosinati Butelezi says, "May the real Barack Obama stand up. Mark looks exactly like his brother. Has he visited Kogelo, the 53rd state of the United States?" I think he means 51st, because there's only 50 states in the U.S., right? You've been to Kogelo, haven't you, Mark?
Of course, of course. In fact, I write about that. You know, I went there for the first time in 30, 40 years in 2011. You know, when I met Granny Sarah at the inauguration, the first inauguration, you know, I hadn't been in contact with the Obama family for a long time. And she was the one who welcomed me back. I remember going into the hotel room in Washington, D.C., and seeing her, and she said, you know, "Mark, I'm sorry for all the things that happened, but we want you back, and we're welcoming you back." And, you know, tears came to my eyes, because there was no rancor. She remembered me when I was this small, you know, going there.
Did you remember her?
And she, yes,
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember what she said, you know, "And I want to meet your wife, so please come to Kogelo and bring your wife with you." And I remember being a Jalongo. You know, I had to go.
You had to go.
I had to go. And what happened is that in 2011, I took a trip, which I write about in my book. It's the very last chapter. It's called The Coda. And I visited Granny Sarah and the rest of my relatives. And it was very emotional, very powerful.
Yeah. And your dad's grave, you saw it for the first time, obviously.
I saw my dad's grave for the first time. You know, it was shocking, because I thought that the grave would be, you know, Granny Sarah lives on a farm, and she's got a very simple, modest house. I don't know if you've been there.
I've been there.
But the thing is that she has all her shamba, you know, and we were sitting there, you know, we were there for several hours, and I remember I said, "I want to see my father's grave," because I wanted to see him out of respect. And I remember that there was a time, a long time ago, I didn't want to go near my father. There was this great fear inside me, because he was so powerful, a presence. And I said, "Well, where are we going? Let's go and see his grave." And she said, "It's right there." And it had been beside us, 10 meters from us, all that time that we were there.
Oh, wow.
And it just blew me over, because I didn't expect it to be right next to me.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a photo in the book. An amazing feeling came over me. I can't describe it. But to see, and also I saw my grandfather's grave, whom I consider the first global citizen, you know, Koinange Obama, who was an amazingly powerful man. And he was the one who I think truly went all over the world and brought back this international, this global spirit to the Obama family. But it was, yes, in short, I've been to Kogelo.
Kosinati, you heard that? Woo. All right, Frederick Okango. Oh, he's a good guy. He's always tweeting. He says, "If you were listening on the radio and not watching, you would think Jeff is hosting Barack Obama. The voice is exactly the same."
Well, Barack sounds like me, too.
I love the way you say Barack, like he's, you know, like, goodness.
Well, you know, it's an interesting point, Jeff, because, you know, people say, you know, the first chapter of the book talks about our meeting in Beijing. And I remember that I talked about seeing him coming off the plane. And, you know, he had, I talk about how he looked. He looked very tired in the book, you know, in the first chapter. And some people said, you know, that's being disrespectful. How can you talk about the president that way? But the thing is that I didn't see him that way as the president. I saw him as my brother. It's like you see your son or you see your wife. You see someone close to you. If they look tired after a long day at work, or they look great, you tell them.
Absolutely.
And that's the way you feel. You don't see them as the president. So that's a little bit, that's family, right? That's family, right,
I
Jeff?
love it. Yeah. John Givanga says,
Okay.
Mark really resembles President Obama. He has demystified things we couldn't ever have known.
Thank you.
Keep on keeping on, sir.
Thank you very much.
You see that?
Thank you very much.
You know, they all think you were born with a silver spoon and all that, and you lived a great life. It was tough.
It was tough. But I've also been very lucky, too. But thank you for that. Thanks for the support.
Oh, man. Tweets, man. I love this medium. You can't tweet in China, can you?
We can tweet. You know, Twitter's not allowed in China, but they have a service called Weibo.
That's right, Weibo.
Yes,
Yeah,
and when I go back, maybe we'll do a tweet. We'll have a photo of you and I together. Get you introduced to China. You know, the Chinese people have been very warm and very welcoming while I've been there. I don't know about tomorrow, but the thing is that the culture is amazing, and they're very warm, and also in many ways they're interested in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
I want more Kenyans to bring their culture to China, and I want more Chinese to understand more about the beauty of Kenya. In fact, I'd love it if one day we can bring some artists and musicians from China to Kenya, and also the other way around.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you something interesting. You know, the Chinese helped build the superhighway, the Thika superhighway, right?
Right.
And lots of Chinese kids being raised on that superhighway, mixed kids coming up.
Really?
So there's an influence already.
Okay.
And now we have the SGR, super railway coming from Mombasa all the way to Kigali, or Uganda, Kigali.
Right.
So China is here. So now you're saying we need to understand each other a lot more, don't we?
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I want, and I keep telling the Chinese who are coming to Kenya, I want you guys to learn Swahili. And I want you also to learn about the culture here, because it's not just enough just to come here and to to build roads. It's wonderful you're doing that. We really appreciate it. Kenyans really appreciate it. But at the same time, also share this technology, which I think people are starting to do. And then what happens is that when they go back to China, the Kenyans can keep that. They can maintain the roads. They can take that knowledge transfer and continue this path of sustainable and good development.
Yeah.
But I also believe in terms of cultural exchanges, we all have things we can learn from each other. You know, we have great cultures. And also having kids. Getting kids in contact is really key. I had kids from the Shenzhen orphanage before I came here. I asked them, can you actually give a little postcard? Can you give us a little postcard to kids in Kenya and show them about how music has affected your lives?
Go on.
And I have some of these cards. You want to see them?
Please.
Okay.
Please, show us. These are from Chinese kids.
These are from Chinese.
Don't even know where Africa
Chinese
is.
Orphans. These are orphans in Shenzhen who I have taught music and are part of our music troupe, our music orchestra. And they created these cards just for Kenyan kids. And here's, I think you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a guitar player who's one of our students. And he says, I hope that one day I can come to Kenya and actually play music with you.
That's what he's saying there.
Yeah.
You can actually read this stuff, can't you?
I can read Chinese.
You read,
Yeah.
like a level something Mandarin, whatever.
Oh, Jeff, you and I got to have a long talk someday, you know? Because I'm sure there's a lot you can teach me, too.
Nothing, man. I hate you, man. I mean, you're so smart. I mean, how is this possible?
Thank you.
It's not fair, man. Which class were we in?
And here's another one. Jeff, maybe one day we'll meet this young, talented young girl. She's learning violin. And she's also was abandoned by her kids when they were very, very young. You know, a lot of girls in China, you know, the people want sons. And so sometimes they abandon their children, their daughters, and the orphanage just pick them up. So she's playing violin. We had Itzhak Perlman, you know, the great violinist, right?
Yes.
He came over and gave a master class to these kids.
Wow.
And she says, you know, I really want to visit Kenya. Be happy.
Is that Itzhak Perlman?
Itzhak Perlman, exactly.
See? I was just kidding, man.
You know it.
I guessed, actually.
I wouldn't have expected less.
Good guess. There's a text here. Wow. Hosting Obama's brother? Oh, my. You might not know this, but you are my greatest source of inspiration, man.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Remember a guy called Victor Kibe back in St. Mary's?
Of course I remember Victor. How are you?
Victor says, hey, Mark designed you. I can't believe it, man. Wow, my God. Man, man.
That brings
man.
back some memories.
It does, huh?
Yeah.
And there's a chapter on St. Mary's.
Victor was the one I was, we worked together on some math problems. I remember him.
Yeah.
I remember Victor.
I'm sure you...
Victor, best regards to your family.
Oh, well done. There is a chapter on St. Mary's, isn't there?
Yes. Yes, there is.
That's what you're going to say?
That's all I'm going to say.
Look,
you know, Jeff Koinange is actually in there. You're in that chapter.
I'm in your book?
You're in that chapter.
Yeah, shut up.
I'm not going to go any further.
Do you know next Friday, Mark?
Says good things.
Next Friday, December 5th, as you know, Saints was established in 1939.
Right.
So this is the 75th anniversary. Next Friday, there's a huge dinner, old boys and girls.
A great school.
Yeah. So if you're around, it would be great to see you there because the guest of honor is the most famous alumni of St. Mary's.
Uhuru. Yes.
Uhuru, President Uhuru. You see, you call them by the first name, man. Yes. We can't do that here, man.
Yes.
We'd be arrested.
The president is a wonderful person in many ways.
Do you remember him?
I remember him in
St. Mary's.
In St. Mary's,
yeah.
And he's trying to make a difference. I remember him as very involved and very energetic when we were in high school. I did not have much contact with him. I don't know him very well, but it's an honor for St. Mary's to have the president there.
There's a guy called Mawira Victor. He says, I can't blink listening to Obama. Time is flying. Endelea paka midnight. Inspiring stuff.
Thank you.
Well done.
It's very inspiring.
Well done, well done. Look, this is your second book. You're already working on a third.
Yes.
What's it about?
I'm working on a book about China.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to write, I'm imagining, you know, I love poetry. So there's some great Chinese poetry. And I'm imagining a Chinese poet coming to modern day China and seeing experiencing it. And it's meant to be funny and also at the same time expose more people, Americans and Kenyans, who will read it, and people around the world to modern China. So I'm working on that, and hopefully that'll be published next year.
Look at you, man. I mean, you're on a roll here, Mark. You're smoking.
Jeff, I can see the smoke from your side of the bench. And by the way, thanks for this side.
I can't believe I'm sitting on the other side of the bench.
Thank you.
It's cool, man. Maybe I should do this, you know, every once in a while.
Change is good.
That's what somebody said, man. He said, change is coming. Yes, we can, he said.
But, you know, you brought up a good point. You know, the issue about books.
Yeah.
You know, books are, especially books like memoirs, like Obama's Journey, were very difficult to read. You've written your own book. And, you know, Jeff Koinange is Through My African Eyes.
Are you advertising my book on my show?
There you go. And the thing is that, but you know also, you know, the importance of actually saying your own story.
Oh, yes, that's important.
And it's not important for now, but for the future.
For posterity.
For posterity. And for your kids, and also for the people who come afterwards. They can understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, also try to help them to make a difference in the lives of those who need help.
Alton Sechero Jr. I know this kid. He works for me. So,
really?
yeah, he tweets a lot.
Okay.
He tweets. He says, no doubt, Obama, the looks, man, a reflection of Barack, the voice too. Will a lot of people tell you sound a lot like your brother?
Well, I've heard that before.
You have.
It's true.
Abdinur Ahmed wants to know, does Mark Obama speak Swahili?
Inasema kidogo.
I love it. Oh, man. Nancy Okuta says, this guy is more Barack Obama's clone.
Wow.
I mean, they're shocked, man. Look at this, Lumumba says.
Well, there are a lot of people who don't know that, you know, we were brothers. And, I mean, a lot of people didn't know until the books came out.
Yeah.
And
we didn't know.
No.
I didn't know.
You didn't know about it.
I was in your class.
Yeah, it was.
But I wasn't that smart, so it was okay.
It was a shock when it came out.
Carol Kim Tai is asking, if he was to turn back the clock, what would the other Obama change? Meaning you.
I don't understand the question.
What would you change if you could change anything?
Right.
Especially after writing all that you've written.
One thing that I would try to change, and I think about it, is I wish I had gotten to know my father more. You know,
Yeah.
this is something.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, it was only the first 7 years when I was very, very young that I got to know him, and those were very unfortunate experiences for me and my mother. But, you know, other members of the Obama family got to know him much better than I did. And it's just unfortunate that we never had a chance. There was, I talk about the book, Jeff, about one time when I came close to going to meeting him. And there was a fear inside me, and I turned back at the last moment. But, you know, I heard many, many years later, when I brought my wife to Kogelo, the lady mentioned about going back to Kogelo. And I remember that at that time, a relative told me he had met my father, and they had talked about me. And my father had said, you know, he will be back. He's my son. And you know, this was something which very touched me, because it was a voice, it was a message across the years. And it showed a connection with a person who was tortured, but also a remarkable person in his own way.
Yeah.
Our fathers, you know, fathers are so critical in terms of children's lives. In some ways, I think, Barak, people talk about Barak a lot, and they talk about me. And I think what happens is that if you look, at the end of the day, sons often try to achieve their father's dreams or correct their mistakes in their lives. And I think Barak has been trying to achieve my father's dreams, but I've been trying to correct his mistakes in some ways.
Ah. So when Barak, can I call him Barak?
Sure.
Is that okay? Just for the record.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
No, I call him Mr. President.
He'd be happy to be here.
I hope he's coming before he leaves office. Is that why he wrote Dreams from My Father? Is that why he wrote that?
You know, Barak was writing his book to achieve, I think he was trying to achieve some sort of identity and trying to understand more about where he came from.
And closure.
And closure.
Yeah.
And closure, because he didn't have a father except for 1 or 2 days. And that was a tense experience. Even that experience was tense.
Yeah.
But to live without your father, but you know, is an intense thing. Children are affected by the absence, like he was, and by the presence of your father, like I was.
Yeah. Deep, man, deep. I have an uncle of mine, Uncle Nick. I think your dad used to work for Shell?
Yes.
At some point.
At some point.
My Uncle Nick is the one who employed him.
Wow.
Right?
Small world, Jeff.
Tiny world. And a lot of people I talk to, you know, the one thing they said about your dad, and of course you know this, is that booming voice he had.
Yes.
He had a booming voice.
Very big British accent, and he could be heard across the room.
And presence.
Yes, a lot of charm.
A lot of charm.
A lot of charm, it's true. And, you know, my mother fell in love. It was a deep love.
Yeah.
And so was, I presume, I only speak for myself, but I know that the president's father was also charmed.
Charming.
You know, and the thing is that, but at the same time, there were lots of contradictions.
Sure.
And at that time, I think there were a lot of pressures, too, because there are family pressures, and when you come back to Kenya from America, it's a whole different environment.
And also, you know, he really wanted the best for his country. And people tell me this. He really was trying to do the best that he could, but he kept running into roadblocks and challenges and people blocking him off, and he couldn't achieve his entire potential. That's what they kept saying. This guy was so smart.
Yeah, and I write in the book, you know, in one place in the book, you know, Granny Sarah told me this. She used to get up, you know, like 3 or 4 in the morning, you know, they used to go to school. You know, it was very far. It was like miles away. Every morning, you know, he would either walk to school, which was like miles away, or she would bicycle him to school. He would first have to get up and look after. He had to look after the goats, and also herd the animals. He got up like at 4 or 5 in the morning, looked after the animals in the farm. Then he would go to school, come back and do the chores every day. And it was, and then from that, he goes to Harvard University. You know, he persuades people. You talk about that booming voice. He had charm.
Yeah.
And you needed charm to survive. Africa is about survival.
Hold that thought, Mark, because I want to talk about it after the break. And also, remember when President Obama first made that speech at the Democratic National Convention, 2004? Right. He said, son of a goat herder.
That's right.
He referred to himself.
He was referring to his father. He was referring to his father as a goat herder, but he was the son. Right.
Deep, man, deep.
It's beautiful.
Deep. Keep tweeting. at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is Obama. Tell them I said this. The book is An Obama's Journey, my odyssey of self-discovery across 3 cultures by Mark Okoth Obama Desanjo. What a book. What a man. What a superstar. What a show. Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
I get such a kick